her journey into DevOps. So this is going to be very exciting to have her back. So a big round of applause for her.
So, hello, I'm Sophie Weston. I have a background in software development, so I spent 20 years working as a dev, but now I work as a DevOps advocate at Piksel in New York. So I work with teams to help them try to kind of improve their delivery processes and work in better ways, and I bleat on about DevOps to anyone who'll listen to me, basically, in Piksel and outside. So conferences like this are great, and tech meetups, of which there are loads in Leeds and York, are also great. But today I want to talk to you about internal tech talks, and in particular about lightning talks. Lightning talks are an excellent way for people to get some experience of public speaking and what one hopes is a friendly environment. They're also an excellent way to kind of build and strengthen tech communities in the workplace. So today I'm going to talk about my experience of organising lightning talks at Piksel over the last kind of 3 years or so. And there's lots of cats, so Ian could use his cat spotter algorithms on my slides. So previously at Piksel, we didn't have a very good culture for kind of sharing and learning. We used to have the occasional what's called lunch and learn, which took place at lunchtime, typically lasted for about an hour, and usually consisted of one fairly senior technical person talking in detail on one technical topic. And I never much liked these talks. They were always rather dull. Though also the speakers were kind of perceived as, if not presented as being kind of experts handing down knowledge from on high. So they were also infrequent, sporadic, and the person offering to talk never got much in the way of encouragement or support. So they didn't work for the audience, and they definitely didn't work for the speakers. But for just one of these sessions, someone wants to organise some lightning talks, and this was my first introduction to this format, and I really liked it. I liked that the talks were kind of short and punchy, so they were just long enough to give you a good idea about something, but not long enough that you could actually get bored. But what I really liked was that they lowered the bar in a good way. So these weren't subject matter experts kind of, dispensing wisdom. They were just people sharing their stories and their interests and their enthusiasm for some bit of tech or other. But sadly, there were no more of these. But about a year later, a few of us were talking about how we could improve engagement and get people more interested in sharing and learning. And I volunteered to try and organise some more lightning talks, because that one session had made a lasting impression on me. So off I went and organised, and I ran some sessions over about 6 months. But then they kind of fizzled out. And although the first session had got a really good audience, as time had gone on, the number of people attending had just kind of dwindled. So feeling a bit frustrated and a bit disillusioned, I gave up. But what had gone wrong? Well, firstly, they weren't different enough from the lunch and learns. I'd stuck to the same format, so it was an hour over lunch, and we had about 4 speakers each time, talking for about 10 minutes each. And I ran them monthly, roughly. But people still had to give it their own time to attend, and I think often people would just forget when they were actually on. I also had problems with, having multiple speakers each time also caused problems. I wasn't very strict with timing, so I had issues with that. Quite often the person going first or second would go way over, so by the time we got to the person going last, we'd simply be out of time. I had problems with people just pulling out at the very last minute. I'm not sure if they thought because they were just one of many speakers they didn't have a real commitment. And also as time went on, I just found it more and more difficult to find enough people to actually speak each time. So I quit, like I said. But a couple of months later, I got chatting to someone who had a lot more experience in this sphere than I have. And I happened to relate my tale of woe about the lightning talks. And he gave me 2 really excellent pieces of advice. He said they had to be more frequent, that monthly wasn't enough, so run them weekly if possible. And my heart sank at that, I must admit. He also said you have to provide food. He told me about Linda Rising. I don't know if any of you have heard of her, and the kind of patterns for change, for changing people and changing situations. And this is one of her patterns. So yeah, provide food. So I took this on board, and a couple of months later I kind of relaunched the talks, but with a few alterations. So I changed to running them every week on a Friday morning. So there's already kind of a slightly more relaxed feeling to Fridays, and that just felt like the right move. I changed the format to be a single speaker each time with a 30-minute slot, but no expectation that people were suddenly going to start giving 30 minutes talks. That was just wiggle room for when people did want to give a longer talk. And I talked to the manager of the York office and got her agreement to provide food each week. Nothing fancy, it was just breakfast stuff. It's like, muffins and croissant, fresh fruit, tea and coffee. I lined up about 4 talks initially, with me set to give the first talk. So this is very much the eat your own dog food principle, or in my case, cat food, to show that I wasn't asking anybody to do something that I wasn't prepared to do myself. And finally, I promoted the talks on Slack and with actual posters up around the office. So that first talk I did wasn't the most exciting of topics. I talked about our bespoke on-call alerting and ticketing system, but I wanted something that I knew I could talk about in my sleep, so I wasn't stressing about that as well as everything else. And it wasn't the best attended, so no comment if there's any kind of correlation there. But since then, we have gone from strength to strength. So this is a list of some of the talks we've had. We haven't missed a single week in about 18 months, so not counting Easter and Christmas, and we have roughly about 30 people each week. It does vary slightly week to week depending on what the subject is. So we've had talks on GraphQL, Apache Flink, developing Alexa skills, potential environmental benefits of moving to the cloud. We've had talks on imposter syndrome, Edward de Bono's 6 thinking hats, inspirational women in tech, the chimp paradox, loads of different things. So why are these lightning talks a good thing? What benefits have they brought? We've changed the culture at Piksel, if only slightly. We've created more of an appetite for learning and kind of created a platform for that learning to take place. Teams can show off their achievements. They can, talk about where they've solved a particular problem or how they've used a new bit of tech. Individuals can share something new they've been looking at or reading about, or just report back from a conference. We've started to break down some of those organisational silos that inevitably exist. We give people the opportunity to get to know people in other teams and other disciplines that they otherwise might not. And by providing food, it does kind of change the dynamic. It makes it a much more sociable and just nicer place to be. We've lowered the coordination costs of giving talks. We've made it easy for people to give talks if they want to. They just have to sign up on the wiki page and then turn up on the day with their slides. They don't have to worry about booking a meeting room or getting the projector working, or even about kind of promoting their talk. And we've also lowered the transaction costs and made it easy for people to attend talks. They don't have to attend in their own time anymore. The talks are shorter each time, so it's they can fit them in. And they just have to turn up. They just someone will be there each week. Individuals get the chance to develop and practice their public speaking skills in a safe, friendly and supportive environment. And by public speaking, I don't just mean this kind of thing, but having the ability to present your ideas and your work confidently in front of your team and your peers and your manager is a really useful skill to have too. It boosts confidence and gives people a sense of achievement. One example I want to mention is we have a young Unix engineer called Josh who was supposed to give a talk one time. He was going to be one of 5 speakers talking about the AWS summit that they'd been to. And when the day came, he totally panicked. And whilst the talk was actually going on, he persuaded one of his colleagues to do his part of the talk for him. But about 9 months later, with support from his team, he gave a really good talk, completely on his own, with a demo about how they had built a self-service platform to provision VMs in Piksel's private cloud. We still have a few die-hard customers who are kind of waiting to see how this newfangled public cloud thing might pan out before they make the move. But he absolutely smashed it, and he was you could see he was buzzing about it for days, and he was talking about, at one time even, submitting a proposal to a conference CFP. So I don't think he did this time, but next time he might do. So for me, it very much pushed me out of my comfort zone. It's only in recent years that I've kind of come to realise and really appreciate that that's the best place to be if you want to learn and grow new skills. Josh isn't the only one whose confidence has grown by giving lightning talks at work. When it was the very first lightning talk, and I wasn't even supposed to be giving a talk, I was just kind of comparing. I was so nervous about having to speak to a room full of people. My heart was pounding. I had like a whooshing sound in my ears. And since then, I've lost count of how many talks I've done at work. I've talked at meetups in York, and here I am in Leeds talking to you guys at the atelier. I also got involved in kind of meetups outside of work. Having started the lightning talks, I go to Agile York, Women in Tech, and Leeds DevOps sometimes. And I've spoken at quite a few, some of those in York. I'm also involved in the organising side of things now. I'm on the committee for Women in Tech. I recently organised an event for the York AWS user group, and I'm on the organising committee for London DevOps. So it's just really good to get involved in the kind of community side of things. Good fun. So I'm going to finish with my top bits of advice if you should be thinking about maybe running some lightning talks where you work. Regular cadence is a key. You need to hold your talks at the same time, in the same place, every week if you can. It just, so that it becomes a habit and it needs to become a part of the furniture. There will be times when the speaker has to pull out at the last minute, so you need a plan B. You need someone lined up in reserve. I've been quite fortunate with this. It's only happened 2 or 3 times, and I've had really good support from kind of some of the regular speakers who've been happy to step in at the last minute. It needs to be owned by someone. This isn't just about coordinating and kind of organisation, but that is a part of it. You need someone who is going to champion this and really care whether it succeeds or not. And yeah, finally, provide food. I'm sure that some people think this is, kind of see this in the light of a bit of a bribe, and it's not really. Well, maybe it is a little, but it does change the dynamic. It does just kind of make it not another meeting. It makes it much more friendly. So that's kind of it, really, my lightning talk. They're a really good way to build communities and kind of celebrate achievements and share knowledge, and yeah, you should give them a go. Thank you. No questions? Cool. Oh, a question.
If you're going to say if you open a new office somewhere else in Europe, how would you try and get the guys there involved in these sessions?
Well, we do actually, because this was a lightning talk and I was trying to keep it within my allotted time, I didn't mention the fact that we do actually record them each week and we stream them on Skype broadcast so that people in our other offices can watch them or people can view them later. Yeah, that's a tricky one. It started off just as in the York office, but it's kind of slowly spread as it's become more of an established feature. And we have had a couple of talks given in our Malaga office, but people still turned up in York and watched, and we still had food, and we just did it remotely. So you can do it, but it's a bit. I would say start in one office and let it kind of grow, because it's just kind of organically. Click happy now. Done. Cool, thank you.